In this video, I'll show you how to use the budget template that I have designed. So the first one that we're going to walk through in this video is the budget template for one person. So when you open the Excel file, it should look like this. So the stuff that's in blue is the stuff that you should tweak, the cells that are highlighted blue. The other things I encourage you not to touch because you might mess with some of the Excel formulas. So over here on the right, you'll see right away that there's some advice about budgeting from the infamous and incredible Elizabeth Warren, who just gives an idea of what might be advisable for folks to put about 50% of their funds towards their needs, about 30% of their funds towards their wants, and about 20% of their funds towards the future. And so, of course, this won't work perfectly. It's just a guideline and an outline of where you might want to start. So the first thing you would do is go ahead and put in your gross income. So for example, if you have an annual salary and you know what you make, you would write it here. If you don't and your salary fluctuates, it would be good to give an estimation. And if anything, I think it's always better to go on the lower end of things, because what you don't want is to plan on more money and then be, finding out that you don't have enough money at the end of the month to pay your bills. So I would aim lower, and then if you have extra money, then that's great to save for the future. So for the example, we're going to go as if we had a set income. So let's say that we have an income of $40,000 a year. So I'm going to type in that 40,000. And as you can see, a lot of the numbers changed the second I did that. And so it estimates about how much taxes will be pulled out. You can tweak this number, but again, I like to leave it because usually, for me at least, leaving taxes at this percentage for my partner and I has meant that we get a refund. Now, again, that won't be true for everyone. It'll depend what your tax bracket is, but that can be fine to leave alone if you're just starting out. So you can see it takes this 40 grand a year and it gets rid of our taxes. So then it gives us our net income after tax. This is the numbers that we're really working with. So that means if you're, as a one person making about 40 grand a year, you have about $2,500 a month after taxes to work with. So you can see that I already had some base values filled in, but let's say that your rent is $650 a month. Well, then we know that this allotment isn't going to work. So we're going to need this to go higher. So you can do that by trial and error. So let's try 0.25 instead. Okay, we're still just shy. So 0.255. Okay, now we've got our $650 a month. But you can see that this bottom one has now turned red because we are exceeding 1, which means we are spending more than we are making in the long run. So you'll have to accommodate for this by going down in another area. So for example, when you're looking at this, let's say that, for one person, you're thinking, I don't spend that much on medical every single month. Well, then you might be able to go down in your percentage on this category to make up for your rent being a smidge higher than that one, okay? So for clarity's sake, let's do that. So we're still a little too high. Okay, and you can do it by trial and error. There's also a way to actually calculate it. So I'll quickly just show you. Let's say you know that your rent needs to be $650 a month. What you can do is type in equal on Excel. We need to know what 650 is, what percentage that is of our monthly income. So you do 650 divided by your total monthly income, and it tells you this value, which means that's the value you would need to type in here for your percent to get exactly 650 here. So this is a guide, so it's okay if it's not exactly perfect. It's really just supposed to help us live within our means. So once you've gotten this page done with your percentages, it's helpful to come and kind of get your mind frame around what each of these categories includes. So especially if you're working with, if you're budgeting with someone in the future, it can be helpful to talk about, make sure you're on the same page. But This section is really for you to write any notes about how you're going to use this sheet for yourself. Okay? So then once you've done this, when you go to the overall page, it will have already filled in your monthly budget that you've determined in this column. Okay? Then it will multiply that by 12 to give you what your annual budget is for each category. So on this page, again, don't touch anything. Don't mess with things and type in a lot of columns because you might mess up formulas. The only exceptions to that are these spots that are highlighted in blue. So for your rent every month, it would be fine for you to manually go in and fill out your $650 a month if that was your rent, because that's not something that is fluctuating. Okay, same thing with insurance, your phone. A lot of these are not fluctuating. Or if you're setting, you're paying $50 a month on your student loans, you're doing that. That's not something that you don't know exactly how much you're going to spend in the grocery store. You know exactly how much your student loan payment is. So that's why it's done like this. You can see that some investments, we have a spot if investments are pulled out of your paycheck. If they're not, then on this page, you would just put 0% here, and then it will disregard that for you. There's also a spot for Roth IRA contributions, and this is to set aside money that you won't pay tax on and helps you save for retirement. And as an individual, you can put $6,000 in an account like that every year. And the younger you start, the better, because the more interest that money will make over time. So it's really advisable to try to put $6,000 in a year if you can every year. But in the long run, whatever you can put, every penny will help. So save, save, save for retirement. So that gives you the overview of how to use the budget theory and the overall page. And I'll make a separate video where I'll show you some of the other techniques.